Everyone, welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Today is Monday, TGIM. No, not really, but let's just make sure YouTube's working. And welcome back to, yay, awesome. Just an FYI, everybody who does watch this, I did like a 2-hour broiler chicken show yesterday. So if you want a detailed report on what I'm seeing out of Bitcoin, probably best just to check out that free 2-hour show that I do on the weekends. It hasn't been a heck of a lot of new developments in Bitcoin overnight, but and I'd spent a lot of time in the daily brief today talking about expectations going forward. So, and by all means, if you would like to take that next step, I'd highly encourage you to consider the Daily Brief membership, the basic site membership. Today, Monday, actually is our site development update report from Sjord, and he's telling us that screeners are coming 100 miles an hour, so hopefully we will see new developments in TRI's developer cycle here shortly. But had a really good report from Sjord, and also too, he has a very unique way of using RSI study with Bollinger Bands, and it was a really good, refreshing sort of a different perspective, and ironically enough, the conclusion from his analysis is basically the same conclusion that I had. So good to see that we're all on the same page. All right, so your sort of 10-minute summary. It is 10:25 right now on the West Coast, Monday, October 28th. So let's see if we can get this done by, let's say 10:35, 10:40. As always, I like to throw together a nice little chart deck for you guys. There it is. And away we go. So starting out of the gate, first thing this morning, remember 2 weeks ago, actually 3 weeks ago now, we got first initial sort of warnings from the US dollar index that maybe people were getting a bit of a risk appetite again. Brexit talk seemed to be coming to a conclusion. Mario Draghi's finishing his term as ECB president. Lagarde will be coming in. Get ready. I'm wondering now whether, we talked again through the daily brief about this, whether we're starting to actually see a little bit of calming down out of things like the euro. Had a pretty big jump there, but you can see slowly working its way back down to earth. We just hit 38.2, so we'll see if this thing is still a bull or if we lose 38.2. We're probably going to have to come all the way back down to value here. And I notice the British pound is sort of waffling right now as well. US dollar index is enjoying a bit of a bid here this coming out of last week. Remember we had said we might actually even paint a nice inside bar, and actually this would be a classic definition of harami. Baby is inside mummy's body, all tails, all wicks, everything inside mummy's body. So that means market might go right back into sort of freak out mode if US dollar ticks up through this high, which was 97.90. And notice the high of the week so far is 97.89. So we came close, but right now we're just sort of on pause. If we do see that US dollar tick back up through the highs, then we're right back into, oh boy, get ready, folks. So hurry up and do nothing right now with regard to US dollar, but we will talk in a bit about how if this top is actually for real, there might be some interesting currency plays out there for us, and we'll finish off the video today with an interesting idea for you. Risk on, risk off. Interesting to see right out of the gate, and we kind of talked about this last week. Stocks were pressing higher, oil was pressing higher, Bitcoin had a big jump there on Friday. Sure felt like risk was coming back into the market. You can see stocks have moved even higher here this morning. we're wondering whether maybe this is an FU move. Again, these guys love to just slightly clean out the old highs and then a big dump. Slightly clean out the old highs and then a big dump. And so I'm wondering, in this one just back through the end of the summer, same thing, take it to new highs and then dump. So I am a little skeptical about how much further this stock market has to go here. I kind of thought that we were going to stall out here at gaps and reload zones, but you can see the market just said, fuck you, Brian. And that's the way the market goes sometimes. Next stop in earnest, I think, if we do accept above these levels, would be sort of 305 up to 308 area, these fib extension levels. And also, too, this megaphone top seems to be up in that sort of 305 to 310 area as well. So, I for the record, and everybody should remember this and hold Brian to account, remember, I was thinking that we were actually going to hit a cycle trough through this period here. So, I don't know what's going to happen here, folks. But up and down like a horse drawers, you can see the Dow actually has not cleanly broken through those old highs. And actually, yes, we have gapped higher here this morning, but we're actually lower than where we opened on the Dow. And I might make the argument things like small caps, they're up in the area where we could definitely see failure. Never a dull moment. I haven't taken my insurance policy off the books because you can see it's basically right where I bought them. But at the same time, too, I'm not calling down here today. Clearly the market is uppy, but don't be shocked if over the next little period here we actually do see some sort of top come in on stocks. And then, finishing that sort of risk on, risk off kind of conversation. Where the hell is it? Over here. I noticed that oil is ran up against a pretty significant trendline resistance here. This is a trend line off of these peaks. And then there was that crazy Saudi Arabia nonsense, which I think was all a scam. And we lost that level, and here we are banging up against that trend line again. Cheeky little gap up here, another one up here. There is the reload short zone, and that would be a sort of an underside tag of this trend line. I don't know. I'm certainly not calling a top there today, but AB equals CDs. Should we be thinking about maybe, S&P's coming up into significant extension resistance levels? This oil now getting very close to these gaps, maybe a little bit more to go. But if we did roll over here, I wouldn't be shocked. And then, the good old corn, like I said, we had a very long conversation about corn expectations tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but yesterday's video, the broiler chickens that we did. Not a heck of a lot to add to that overnight. As you can see in the daily brief, I was sort of talking about this. Maybe ultimately this is where they really want to take the market, but market can never really move in one line straight to A to B. Usually it has to go A to B. Market gets heavily overbought. Guys like Mountain Man come in. They sort of, balance out the order book. Get a little. They're either people taking profits or even like Mountain going short here. That balances things out. So how do we get up to here? Usually market moves in sort of AB equals CD fashion. And as I had sort of pointed out yesterday, if I had my druthers to play this, I'd actually like to see a nice consolidation in here. Give me 3 higher lows to work with, and then bot levels start coming along, and then we can start seriously thinking about playing this. But for now, kind of like with the risk on, risk off kind of idea, it feels to me like risk on needs a bit of a pause and just needs to sort of, backfill a little bit to set up any further moves higher. So risk on right up at the top end of the range. Mr. Trump can say, look at me, I'm wonderful. Stock market's at new highs. Everybody reelect me. Little bit of suspicion around the oil. You can see it coming down here. Are we getting maybe a little too far on the upside here and we need to correct? On the risk off proxies, they're all still heading down. So I don't see any major turn here yet. We had talked last week about how this nasty M in the yen was very concerning. And you can see the yen has moved even further lower. The bonds are just falling out of bed here. And if there's one trade that I did that was good recently, was I went and picked up bond put options. And the cool part about this trade is I totally walked everybody on these videos through this trade, how I was going to hunt for reload zones. When they came in, if it set up, I was going to totally pull the trigger, and I did. So actually, I really feel proud of myself for the fact that I just, I laid this trade out step by step by step, and it's working really nicely. And somebody even on TRI reported that they just doubled their money. So congratulations, doublers. Way to go. There is that yen just looking like a train wreck right now. And then finally, big shout out to Julian. Great call, dude. Last week, heading into the end of the week, we were kind of like, well, gee whiz, gold's looking uppy. And he's like, I'm going to totally fade this. If it gets up to 15.10 to 15.20, I'm so hitting this. And not only did he look like a rock star finishing the day on Friday, but we're even getting more follow through today. Way to go, Julian. Nice trade. Downside support. And I will say, the gold market has hung in a hell of a lot better than either yen or bonds here. So I suppose gold bugs should take some solace in that. Still thinking, like gold stocks kind of idea. Maybe we play this descending wedge from the other side now. That's totally possible. Maybe we just completely crap out and lose it and head right back down into the wedge. That's possible. Thought it was really cool how I drew this little squiggly line theory about a week or so ago over Barrick's chart, and it's been almost perfect. I mean, look at that. That's hilarious. So, nothing really to get too excited about on the long side out of Barrick. But, maybe against these lows, some guys are considering taking long shots. This isn't a trade that I would consider. I'll just tell you that, FYI. There are a couple of gold and silver stocks that I am keeping an eye on, but I still think they need a little bit more work. Okay, so risk on, risk off. I think we've covered that pretty well. The corn, as I sort of said just a few minutes ago, as sort of one of our risk on proxies. Big jump. I hate to say it, but I really think that this is probably nothing more than just a nice short squeeze. On Friday, we found out that the October CME futures contracts, that was the last trading day. And there were probably a bunch of people that were short that contract, and they were like, holy crap, I got to cover. And that's sort of what started this off. Do find it really interesting that if we just go a boo-biddy-boo, there is Mr. Gann. And gee whiz, Mr. Gann ganned us again. Years ago, we used to say, China, 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 don't get China. I think this market is Ganny, 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 don't get Ganned. And, it's almost cliche the way you see this, but, this is why we at TRI like to use the 50% rule, Mr. Gann's tool, as a profit-taking objective. It works really, really well. So, really good analogy. Market ran up, hit a high of 10,540, and you notice 50% level sitting there, 10,580. Has this move played itself out? Is it done? Nobody knows for certain. I would say it's a little bit early for us to think continuation pattern. And that's sort of this conversation that I had just a few minutes ago with you guys, that if this is a continuation pattern, they really do want to take it up back up to the top end of the range, then we really would like to see some structure come in here. And I do find it fascinating that the market is basically setting up itself up right off that 25 level. So, my hunch and what I'll be doing on the site is just simply following things like trendline breakouts. Ideally, we'd love to see this thing like I did just a moment ago. Nice W like that would just be sweet, sweet, sweet. we'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. But that's sort of what I'm thinking about out of the corn right now. And then finally, just to finish off the video, well, actually, a couple things. I was touting out this stock, Kirk, recently. They're in the home furnishings business. Hopefully, everybody sees the W's. Why would Brian be interested in something like this? Makes sense. And then also, too, is there any room for us to make any money here? I think there's lots of room. And so, interesting today. And, remember, I'm asset agnostic. I couldn't care what the asset is. All I care is I just want to make money. So, here's an example of a cryptocurrency. This happens to be Syscoin. And again, same sort of logic. Can you see the W's? W's within W's. And, of course, Brian was in there buying reload zones on that big Bitcoin rally. Keep in mind, this is a price relative to Bitcoin. So hopefully you can see if we go reload zones, what a shock. And actually, if I change this to a candle chart, you'll even see it better. We dipped into the reload zone. So, Brian eats his own cooking. Brian went and did some buying. And I'll risk against these lows. And if the lows are broken, I'll just walk away. This is the next bus in 10 minutes. So I wanted to show you guys here on the free YouTube video sort of, this concept works in cryptocurrencies and it also works in the stock market. We'll finish off the video here for you guys here today with just an idea that I was kicking around. I like to, it's one of the modules in our education program. I like to follow what's called the Commitments of Traders reports, or the COT reports. The teal line that you see here are the commercials. They are the smart money. The green line is the institutions. They are the ones that facilitate the trade for the commercials. Commercials are hedgers, so they want to have the exact opposite trade of whatever the trend is. And you notice that they were getting longer and longer and longer and longer as this Australian dollar was heading down lower and lower and lower. But notice there's a divergence here. In essence, the commercials stopped going short and actually started to clean up their balance sheet and have actually, started to M out here, even though the Australian dollar has worked its way a bit lower. And then conversely, on the other side of the equation, the institutions who facilitate the trade for the commercials, you notice that there's a divergence here as well. They're making higher lows, and we got this beautiful W here in the Commitments of Traders reports, and yet the Australian dollar is going a little bit lower. And it kind of feels like, we've been talking for the past, really the past year, that this market has been one directional. And it just feels like this market is way overdue for some sort of technical bounce. So we were postulating on the site today, what is some sort of realistic rally window? I think if we just do simple 50% rules, boobity boo, up to boobity shmoo, just move that up, there we go, and throw on our 50% rule, I think we can actually make a pretty good argument for like 74 cents on the Australian dollar, which would be nothing more than just checking this original market structure fail, checking this fail, checking this rally peak, all these areas. And so as a trader, I just simply want to look and say, okay, well, there's a W. If I buy the W and I take profits at the 50% rule, does it produce better than a 2-to-1 risk reward? And you can see that it says 2.36. So just an FYI, I probably will be talking about this more down the road. Any kind of dips, again, you can see on all these tails. Notice market went down, no. Down, no. Down, no. Down, no. So somebody's coming in here and defending this thing down here. And then also, too, if we actually look at things like volume profile, you actually see that when it does trade down here, there's not really that much interest in doing business. So this is a market I'm very interested in now going forward. Imagine that. Brian's actually thinking Australian dollar long. So chew on that. If you can get some value out of that, awesome. Like I said, in the daily brief today, this is the kind of stuff that we do at TRIs, things like Commitments of Traders report analysis. So just an added sort of tool that you probably never considered before. But, this is basically one of our benchmark tools that we use here at TRI. Okay, guys, have yourselves a great day. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. If I've given you some new ideas to consider, then that's a bonus. But the only thing left for good old Brian to say at this point is a big hearty bye for now.